Hi, my name is Alex, and welcome to what is possibly one of my favorite places on earth, Okinawa. Ever since my wife and I came here for our honeymoon, we've returned here many times over. We mostly came to visit the three larger islands, Okinawa itself, Ishigaki, Miyakojima, all beautiful and well worth a visit. The food and drink are fantastic, and the hospitality of the local people is second to none. Here, a lady is pouring us a drink to accompany one of my favorites, sushi made of local beef. In our game's timeline, Okinawa was still called Ryukyu Kuku, or Kingdom of Ryukyu. Although the Okinawan languages belong to the Japanese family group, culturally in the Middle Ages, the people here were heavily influenced by the Ming China. The game represents this as Ryukyu being a tributary of Ming, and Ryukyu's trade-focused ideas reflect that Okinawa was at the important crossroad of sea trade between China, Japan, and the Pacific Islands. Our king, Sho Shitatsu, is a historical figure. He ruled Ryukyu from 1444 to 1449, and like in our game, he died without an heir. In real life though, he was 36 when he came to power, not 20. I don't know if in real life he was as weak as the game depicts him. We obviously have no subjects, and we are a vassal of Ming, and our starting development is 5, we are so weak. Looking at ourselves from space, we can see some of the strategic advantages and challenges of our position. We are isolated and protected by Ming from any attack. And for us to attack someone, we need to invade by sea. In principle, we can expand in any direction. Up north into the Jurchen tribes, due west into Tibet, south-southwest into the Philippines, and we can even go northeast and then southeast into Mexico. One very valid strategy is to become a horde, because hordes can conquer fast and race for infinite mana. I've seen successful games on Reddit and on YouTube where people did no CB attacks into one of these nations, vassalized them and then conquered around them to form Tibet, complete its missions and become a horde. The insight here is as long as your capitals are on the same continent, you can conquer and core right next to your subject. As you see, many of these nations start without allies and with very small armies. Theoretically, if you have enough patience to restart, you may be able to pull this off. Ming, as your overlord, gives you the military access by default. Another valid strategy, shown by Alzabo HD on YouTube, is to enforce peace on one of the Japanese miners. This will allow you to attack them without engaging the Japanese shogun. If you attack normally into Japan, you will need to face the combined might of Ashikaga and all of his vassals. Other people have no CB attacked a miner in the Philippines, moved their trade capital down there, broke away from the Ming vassalage and formed the Pirate Republic. You can see their army is as small as ours. You could also theoretically simply colonize here in the Philippines, then fabricate claims normally and start your expansion that way. That is, if you have the patience to sit around for 30 years doing nothing. Yet another strategy is to attack with no CB into one of the Jurchen tribes or Ainu. Vassalize them and start expanding from the north down. There are also some exploits and tricks, requiring you to click the exact buttons at the exact moment of time, turning you into a horde for example. By the way, as far as I know, the Mayan horde strategy doesn't work right now. You can still become Mayan of course, getting infantry combat ability and co-creation cost discounts, but it's very difficult or impossible to then become a horde, unless you still form Tibet. Alright, let's get into it. Our ideas and traditions are really nothing to write home about. Some diplomatic reputation is helpful, and the first idea is probably the most helpful of the batch, minus 25 aggressive expansion. Several trade-focused ideas can help you with money, but overall I believe the idea set was created to laugh at the player. Two fundamental approaches right now exist to get this achievement. First, you stay Ryukyu throughout the whole game. This is what some purists would say the only way to get this achievement. Then it's pretty much a normal game. You can have subjects, meaning vassals and client states, and of course the colonial nations. In the second approach, you form other nations, anything you want really. For this approach, the victory condition is that you must be the only nation remaining. This means you have to be the true one tag. In our video today, we will cover two possible northern strategies, both of them part of the second approach of forming other countries, what I decided to call the samurai strategy, where we will form a truly powerful Japan, and in the second scenario we will form Manchu and Qing for the banner strategy. The second approach of forming nations is just my personal preference, but even here I will show you where you can stay Ryukyu. In this guide, I will show the initial game setup through 1600, plus minus 5 years. In my experience, if you have about 2000 development by then, you can complete your world conquest. I have demonstrated this in my multiple previous world conquest videos. The first few decades for both strategies are the same, that's why I chose them. I'll show you where the scenarios diverge. We begin by hiring 1 infantry regiment and 2 cogs. We want to have 5 military units in total and 5 transports. We can safely drop both the military and naval maintenance to zero. We don't need our army just yet. We will, however, engage in politics. This opening depends on the mechanic of enforcing peace. As inspiration, I literally took Alzavo's HD video of a few years ago. We will depend on two certainties which happen here in Japan. First, the larger daimyos will always engage in wars with their neighbors. Second, in dispatch 1.35, Ashikaga will always attack a foreign entity present on the Japanese islands. Beyond these two certainties, almost nothing is predictable. The main uncertainty here, which made me restart my game 3 times, is Ming. I don't know what Paradox has against Ming, but they made it very unstable in the latest patch. It can easily get into a downward spiral as early as 1460s. And this strategy relies on Ming coming to your protection when Ashikaga attacks. So, step number 1. Choose a larger daimyo on whom you will enforce peace. A convenient target here is Hosokawa. Uniquely, as Okinawa, you start as a kingdom, so use your 3 diplomats to improve relations with Hosokawa's neighbors and rivals. You want to get those relations above 100. That's the condition for enforcing peace. My opportunity to launch into action came in 1447. I've been watching Hosokawa every second of the past 3 years, and they've just declared war on the poor Kono, with whom I've reached 100 relations. So far, no restarts, all very predictable. Make sure that the tooltip says that Hosokawa will not accept your peace enforcing initiative, then you will automatically declare war on them without calling their overlord Ashikaga. You will want to assign your ruler as a general. Our goal here is to get rid of him as soon as possible. No disrespect to the real person, of course. Our second goal is to besiege Hosokawa's capital, Setsu, which is the modern-day Osaka. This will give us the bulk of the war score, and we should be able to take 2 or 3 provinces and money from them. I don't like landing right next to Hosokawa's main army. I'd rather besiege a fortless province, so I could hire my free company. But I don't want Kono to grab the capital. Okay, we'll take a risk. We'll go back and detach a small unit. Fighting here in Japan is a little messy. The provinces are tiny, a lot of armies are marching about. It's very easy to miss a sudden attack. But with my situational allies right next to me, I feel quite safe. Obviously I have no money to hire mercenaries, so I need loans. From now, we'll be bleeding money like no tomorrow. Not to worry, we'll get it all back and then some. Okay, Hosokawa attacked before my reinforcements arrived. When at full force limit, we get this mission, giving our troops some extra morale. It's one of those moments when the fate of your entire campaign hangs on a single battle. My allies and I won even without the free company. Now we simply occupy as many enemy provinces as we can, and we keep blockading Setsu with our fleet. To discourage Hosokawa from attacking my fleet, I hired an admiral. Rather stupidly, I decided to fight the Hosokawa army so they can't unsiege the lands, only to be reminded how weak my armies really are. But it no longer matters, we got the capital. I cannot get 4 provinces, but I can get 3, and 100 ducats in cash. We can even get some war reparations. Voila, it's 1448 and we have literally quadrupled in size. I prioritize grabbing Setsu for 2 reasons. One is right next to Kyoto, where the Shogun of Japan resides. And 2, I used to live there for 5 years. My wife comes from there and one of my kids was born there. So you can say I have an emotional attachment. Okay, now we have problems. First, we cannot afford a large army, and we have to disband our free company. Unfortunately, we'll have to hire it back if rebels rise up. 2, most of our development right now is in the wrong culture, wrong religion provinces, so the rebels will rise up. 3, we have 0 military buffs, while the Japanese daimyos have a lot of morale and infantry combat ability from their religion and from their traditions. And so on. Anyway, we have a lot of problems. On the positive, we can pay out all our loans, and when we lower the army and fleet maintenance, we're actually making money, 1 ducat a month. No one would want to ally us, but for now that's not an issue. We are protected by Ming, who still hasn't collapsed. Speaking of the Ming collapse, I highly recommend saving right now and duplicating this save file. As soon as Ming collapses, Ashikaga will attack you, and in the worst case scenario, it would be a game over. Okay, for now, we're just scoring our new lands and waiting. There will be nothing to do for a couple of years. While doing that, I am seeking out my next attack targets. I'm basically improving my relations with everyone in Japan, so I can again enforce peace on someone. I want to have some control over the moment of Ashikaga's attack on me, so when the Ming mandate is low, like right now, I'm quietly sitting on my hands trying not to get noticed. I want to attack someone when Ming's mandate is high, hoping that Ashikaga will intervene. One of the obvious and massive issues when playing as Ryukyu is that because of our 1-1-1 leader, we're hopelessly falling behind in technologies, and with time, the gap will only grow. We are also too poor to afford any advisors. So in any events which offer mana as a choice, I always take mana. Still, I've decided to use a lot of my admin mana to full core my provinces, because the full state gives more income and manpower. This next step is not strictly necessary, however I do recommend it. Convert your religion to Shinto. There are two ways to do it, and I believe I chose the worst one. I bumped my stability to +1 and converted using the decision. This drops my stability all the way down to -3. A better way to do it would be through rebels. Simply put a missionary into one of the Shinto provinces, bring the maintenance slider to 0, and when the revolt risk is high enough, simply accept the demands. You will become Shinto and you will lose some prestige. Shintoism gives us several advantages over our original religion. First, we now have access to religious incidents. Each incident moves us along the isolationism to openness slider, and each level of openness gives us certain benefits. Second, all of Japan is Shinto, and because we are conquering in Japan, we want our religious unity to remain high. Finally, Shinto gives us 10% morale of armies and heretic tolerance. Because in my first samurai strategy we are going to become shogun, we have to take the independent daimyo government reform. Only do this if you want to become shogun. This is a great reform though. It gives us another 10% army morale, 10% infantry fighting ability, and it gives us the samurai units. And it has lost the governing capacity limitations from the earlier patches. Fundamentally, this is where our two scenarios diverge. But because until the war with Ashikaga our actions will remain exactly the same, for the purpose of this video I will still keep it as the common scenario. Another thing I decided to do, which you don't have to, is to develop my home islands for Renaissance. Yes, it will use a lot of precious mana, and I may not be able to sell it to Ming, who is already collapsing into debt. Previously you could get up to 10 ducats a month from selling this technology to Ming, but it's no longer possible most of the time. But having Renaissance will make me stronger, so I'm going for it. Because we still have our 111 ruler, pushing for Renaissance is painful. Yeah, here is an example of the Shinto incidents. The Woko pirates in this case. In most of these incidents, I select the open outcome, because for both of today's scenarios I want to become Confucian. Oh, this is painful. In the second stage of the pirate incident, the open outcome will give me some diplomana that I sorely need, but will drop my relations with everyone. Finally, Renaissance, which we can immediately embrace. Developing Okinawa also made us quite a bit richer, which is a good thing. Sadly, we cannot offer knowledge sharing to anyone. Ming has loans and no one else likes us enough. In 1462, I can finally declare the second war of this campaign. I have very carefully selected my conditions for this war. Ming has just gotten back to 50 mandates, so they are not weak anymore. And I can enforce peace on one of my neighbors. I am hoping Ashikaga will use this opportunity to attack me, and Ming will come to my protection. That's the intent of my provocation anyway, let's see how it plays out. Meanwhile, our measly mission tree is giving us some missions. Even more development in Okinawa. I'm taking it, why not? The Woko pirate event chain still continues. I actually dislike it with passion. There we go, another open outcome. Ashikaga, my friend, it's now a great time to attack me. I'm making gains in my war, and Ming is above 60 in their mandate. For the purpose of this video, I will not restart if Ashikaga doesn't attack. When I got my 3 mountains achievement, they did not attack me, so I had to no CB into Orochoni to continue expanding. But while I was renting, having lost my patience, ta-da! Ashikaga has declared on us, bringing along all of his vassals, apart from the one we are fighting already, of course. And we got our step 5 complete, provoke Ashikaga the Shogun to attack you. This is a great moment to save and duplicate your save file. So many things can go wrong. For example, Ming may not land their troops in Japan, then you are done. In my own case here, by starting the war against one of the daimyos to provoke Ashikaga, I have pretty much sacrificed my army. I don't think I will be able to escape with it back into Okinawa. My priority now is to support the Ming fleet with my own fleet so they can land in Japan. And one tricky situation here is I need to get the siege of Kyoto. If Ming besieges it, they may not give it over to me. However, I still set Kyoto as the siege target for Ming, to encourage them to bring their troops over. Overall though, this is the moment where you may have to restart several times. Because you're not really in control of this war, it can go wrong in so many ways. The military power situation is heavily skewed in our favor. Along with Ming, we have 75,000 troops, while the Japanese start this war with 32,000. We also have more boats on our side and even one heavy ship. Finally, the pirate event chain is complete. My friend Ming has landed 7,000 troops on Chiba, and they're bringing 16,000 troops more. I have to say this is a very good start to this war. While Ming is doing all the heavy lifting, it would be a good idea to peace out from our first war. We want to be at peace with all the daimyos when we become shogun. Otherwise, they won't become our vassals, I believe. Ming has been doing well, besieging Japan in a couple of places at once. This permitted me to rehire my troops, including a couple of cheaper mercenary companies. My goal now is to get Kyoto for myself. Between Ming and I, we have inflicted a lot of damage on the Japanese army. They are now spread around the islands in small stacks. I am just trying to stay close to the Ming armies, while they siege all the forts and suffer all the attrition, just so that the Japanese don't attack them. Look, they brought over almost 50,000 troops. This war is pretty much won. It feels so nice having the power of Ming on your side. Pretty soon I will be fighting them, so I'm enjoying it while it lasts. Now that the Japanese troops are all but defeated, I have a real problem. Ming is besieging Kyoto. I need to take over that siege, otherwise this war would have been for nothing. So after landing in Setsu, I started my takeover operation. Basically, you allow your allied troops to attach to your main army, and you begin to move chaotically to confuse them. As soon as they leave, you sit on the siege and don't move under any circumstances. And there, a short while later, Kyoto falls and we control it. This is the moment where our two scenarios fork out. We will first do the samurai scenario. To remind you, our goal is to have 2000 development by 1600. In principle, you can continue the war for a while to bring up your war score even higher. I decided to piece out for some money and a couple of provinces, in addition to becoming shogun, of course. On reflection, I made a couple of mistakes. One mistake, I should have taken the provinces on the edges, next to Korea and Aino, so I can fabricate claims on them. Second, I should have cut down the bigger daimyos in size. I now have two large daimyos, Uesugi and Ouchi, who are powerful and disloyal, and who can declare independence wars against me. Although, I don't mind if they declare, I'll be able to eat them up faster. Why is this a valid strategy then? Well, look, it's 1466, and we have all of Japan under our indirect control. We have one of the best government types in the game, the Shogunate, under which we can create unlimited vassals. And the liberty desire of each vassal is calculated individually against us, not as a group against me. The downside of this government is that we are fixed to the kingdom rank. Also, we are banned from taking the mandate of heaven casus belli. I guess Paradox has decided that a shogunate with the celestial empire would be too overpowered. Because we are kingdom, for example, we cannot get the cultural union on the Japanese cultures, and we have to accept them all manually. The shogunate government gives us 3 unique interactions: expelling Ronin for 50 admin power, low unrest and lower liberty desire, Sankin Kotai for 50 Diplo power, and importantly +3 Diplo reputation, great for annexations, and the Sword Hunt for 50 military power and much cheaper troops. All of these interactions lower your legitimacy by 20, so I cannot really use them right now, because sometimes during the recent wars, my starting ruler died, and he got replaced by a new guy with only 9 legitimacy. The situation is so bad that a civil war is about to start. I wish it triggered when I had the 111 ruler. Not now. I don't know how my vassals will behave during a civil war if it breaks out in my country, so I decided to sacrifice some military mana to prevent it. The progress towards the civil war stops if your legitimacy is above 75. I'm kinda tired of poor leaders with wants in their skill sets, so my heir can go fishing. Well, on the bright side, we made it to the Great Power list. We are number 8. When these events happen, wanting me to release a dormant Japanese clan, I just decline. By the way, I forgot to mention, as soon as we became shogun, Min had abandoned us as their tributary. We are no longer under his protection. All I'm doing now, for several years already, is catching up on technology and handling my vassals. In 1472, I finally can select my first idea group, and for this game I'm choosing exploration and high developed colonies for my first age ability. Remember how I said I made a mistake by not taking any land on the edges of my country? I couldn't make any claims, and because my biggest vassals were not loyal, they didn't make any claims for me either. So in 1483, tired of sitting on my hands doing nothing, I allied Nanai and moved my armies to the continent. My second idea group came up and I chose administrative. I hope I will be doing a lot of conquest and a lot of coring. This is a no CB war against Orochoni, out of desperation. I should have been smarter with my claim strategy. Now I'm stepping into the continent because I am confident I can defeat Ming. Or if I struggle to do so, I can release these lands as a vassal and prevent them from joining my wars. A valid strategy to crumble Ming is to declare a trade war against them, blockade their ports and sit on them for 5 years. As long as you have navy strong enough for that, you will win and you can get a lot of money off them. In my case though, Ming is already struggling to survive. I want to make my way down south so I can border them, claim their lands and attack. Anyway, an easy war against the poor little Orochoni here. 40 years have passed since the start of the game. We have fought only 3 wars. But if you noticed, each war was very strategic and it massively advanced our interests. We got a foothold on the Japanese islands, became shogun, and we have just entered the mainland Asia. From here we can start fabricating claims on all our neighbors, conquer the reaches of China, and colonize the Americas. In fact, I'm going to attack Ainu right now. Another quick and easy war. There is no need to overextend yourself when you are small. I prefer to fight these small, easy targets with fast, clean wars and snowball from there. Our development is so low, we can even concentrate in Hokkaido. Imagine that. Uesugi, who used to be one of my biggest vassals, lost a war to Ouchi and I was able to integrate them. My vassal Ouchi is now bigger than me. I expect them to declare an independence war against me any moment now. Look, their liberty desire is 100%. For now though, I continue my small victorious wars. The reason I am getting into Kamchatka is because I want to have a coring range to colonize Alaska. I will not save scum for the colonization institution, but who knows, I may get it. I cannot annex Kamchatka yet, because my Ainu cores are not yet done. But I can take this default mission for cheaper state maintenance, why not? A short while later, our previous cores are done and we can take Kamchatka. After exploring a bunch and annexing some smaller Japanese vassals, our next war is still here in the eastern Siberia. Actually 2 wars. My ally Nanai has disintegrated into a few countries and I immediately fabricated claims on them. Nif managed to grow during my war against them, all the more for me to annex. And the Ainus are back as a one-province mine in Sakhalin. I'm so far behind on my technologies and ideas that I decided to release Orochoni instead of coring these lands. I will need to annex them before forming Japan, otherwise they will go free. It's already 1493. I don't think I will get colonization, but still I want to conquer these Siberian tribes. I managed to get the radical reforms by hiring the inflation reduction and trade efficiency advisors. Now I ask them to wait outside for a while, get 200 of admin and diplo mana each, and hire them back. And I still cannot colonize Alaska, because my East Siberian lands are not cored. I don't have the colonial range advisor available, and I'm not going to roll for him. I don't have any spare cash. I've decided to use the Shogun government ability for some mana and money of course, but also because it limits the manpower recovery speed for my vassals. And like I said, I expect Ouchi to attack me. I'm now making more than 3 ducats a month. After 5 decades of making close to 0 money, I feel rich. Finally, my Kamchatka cores are complete, and I can colonize Alaska. It's 1498. The colonization spawns in a couple of years. There is no way I'm getting it. Ouchi kept not attacking me, and I did not want them to backstab me when I'm fighting on the continent. So I provoked them by deleting half of my army, and after they declared, I hired the Free Company back. This isn't such a simple war. We have similar development, similar size of armies, and they're really spread out across the map. So this war involves a lot of running around. Well, it's a good start. And we sink 5 of their 12 ships, even better. We appear so weak to others during this war that one of the Yurchen tribes, Denjo, has declared the war against our continental vassal Orochoni. This is actually great news, because most of the Yurchens are Ming's tributaries, and now I can get some land without fighting their overlord. Ooh, I forgot to dock my explorers. As much as I didn't want to, I did hire another mercenary company. I prefer to overspend, to overwhelm my opponents and finish the wars faster, rather than drag these wars out destroying my economy. Oh look, I haven't seen this a lot. 2 enemy forts fall at the same time, freeing up my 2 armies to attack the enemy from 2 directions. On becoming shogun, I've lost the independent daimyo government, along with the great military buffs it used to give, so I do have to overstock to fight Ouchi. Good job, boys. After 3 more years of fighting and sieging, I can finally sign peace with Ouchi and focus on the Yurchens. Because my vassal failed their independence war, they remained my vassal, and they're now small and loyal. Well, they will be loyal soon. After unsieging the north of my country, I managed to destroy about 1/3 of the enemy army in the Kurils. Then it's a simple matter of landing in Sakhalin and bringing the fight to their territory. Denjo actually has 3 mountain forts, so this war means a lot of sieging. 5 more years later, we finally won this exhausting war. I have rebellions everywhere, but I got a lot of highly defensible terrain. For the next couple of years, we'll pause our expansion again and stabilize our country. Now that we have a foothold in Alaska, we can stop colonizing the Americas for now. I will eventually move my capital there if I continue with this game, but for the next few decades I prefer to colonize the Spice Islands. Because we border Ming now, we started getting these events giving us claims on their territory. So if you want to remain shogun and stay as Ryukyu, you can use these claims to conquer China. But I will still form Japan, because I want to get the Celestial Empire government reform. Awesome, I was waiting for this event. It kicks off the Confucian event chain, and at the end of it, I'll be able to convert my religion to Confucian, one of my favorite religions in this game. By doing that this way, I will also automatically harmonize Shinto, and the +5 morale of armies which Shinto gives directly will be replaced with +10 infantry combat ability. I dislike staying Shinto because it has very weak conversion power. I've spared you from the stress of seeing rebels pop up in literally every province of my country, but over the last 5 years all I've been doing was fighting the rebels, and the Confucianism along with the humanist ideas will make my country stable. One positive of fighting so many rebels is now I have -100 rebellion chance in all of my provinces, and I can lower their autonomy without the risk of more rebellions. Okay, I've taken 16 years to sit back, relax and stabilize my country. I've fought off 1 or 2 waves of revolts, integrated Ouchi, and fabricated claims on my neighbors. I've also caught up a little bit on my technologies, and I've developed several provinces for colonialism. I haven't yet embraced colonialism because I'm simply too poor, but overall I'm happy with my period of peace. I've also continued to colonize, province by province, and develop claims on people in the Philippines. I tend to be active here in the Spice Islands after my wars against China. 2 provinces in Japan are scripted to start getting gold in an event like this one. We're slowly getting richer. As much as I enjoyed this brief period of peace with my neighbors, it is time to fight. Between now and 1600, I don't expect to have any peace. My first target is Ming. They have a lot of rebels right now, and I'm afraid they will collapse any moment. I want to grab a few provinces in the north on which I have claims, and as much money as I can to pay out my loans. I'm besieging my war target first to start getting the ticking war score. Although Min and his allies have 60,000 troops to my 25,000, I am much more afraid of the massive rebel stacks roaming the country. Ming is now with low mandate, so I don't expect them to be a military challenge. Ah, yes, during my 14 years of peace, I've completed the new Confucian event chain and become a Confucian via a decision. It was a very simple process, no stability loss, and the Shinto religion is now harmonized. I wish Ming would get their act together. I'm getting tired of fighting their rebels for them. In every province I occupy, I increase devastation. And there we go, the collapse of Ming has started. I may have contributed to it by occupying and devastating their capital, of course, but I'm happy I'm not too late to this party. Ah, they lose control of the south. This is bad. I actually much prefer fighting a unified Ming than this collection of independent states. I will now need to navigate a web of alliances and coalitions. In my first peace deal, I'm just going for some money and a few provinces. Their money right now is more important to me than their land. I am a shogunate, so I cannot claim the mandate of heaven. This means I have to take provinces in China at their full war score cost, and I have to core them. I would rather not do this. And because I took 2,000 ducats in cash, I can now embrace colonialism and pay out a bunch of loans. It was also becoming difficult to avoid these dozens of thousands of rebels roaming around the country. So a quick and easy war is a good war in my books. For our third idea group, offensive. I'm desperate to improve my army quality and get some discipline. 1535 is a momentous year for our nation. This is when in this playthrough I decided to stop being Ryukyu and form Japan. We're the 5th great power right now. By all accounts, we're doing well as Ryukyu. If you don't want to change your tag, your country, then don't do what I'm going to do next. Hopefully, I will be able to show you why I'm making this change. Omedetou, Nihon ni natta. Congratulations, we're now Japan. One of the strongest nations in this game, with a ton of claims and an excellent mission tree. Not to mention a strong army. We have lost our shogunate government reform, which some people love and I don't really like. I will become the Celestial Empire soon, but for now I took the Eastern Plutocracy reform, because it gives me another merchant. Before our next war, let's hire some samurai. These troops have extra discipline, although reinforcing them is more expensive than normal. I have fabricated a bunch of claims here on the Yurchens. It's a reasonably easy war while waiting for our truce with Ming to expire. We've started completing missions from Japan's massive mission tree. For this one I had to hire some heavy ships, which I anyway need for my future wars. I'm planning a very specific configuration here in the north. For this I need to take most of the Yurchen lands, even if they are not co-belligerated. I don't care about the aggressive expansion in this remote area, so I'm okay with 3 separate peace deals. After this, what I do is release Mongolia. I'm giving them all my provinces on the border with Oirat, in preparation for taking the Mandate of Heaven. Oirat is a horde with more than 300 development, and if I border them without a truce, and without them being my tributary after I grab the Mandate, I will have a massively unpleasant disaster related to my unprotected northern border. At the same time, I don't want to spend effort fighting for the slow development provinces, so I simply want Oirat out of my sight. Shun over here has an unpleasant habit of allying a lot of countries, including Korea, so I think it's a good idea to attack them before they have any allies. While preoccupied with my coring, I missed this massive rebel stack. Ming is still going through its spiral of collapse. Looks like more countries will pop out soon. One good thing of playing a country that received a lot of updates in the latest patch, like Japan, is the gameplay feels more alive with different events like this one. Here we get prestige and a lot of diplomana. Always welcome. Even though the early Shun is a lot stronger than the late Ming, they still don't really offer a military challenge to our growing country. In the peace deal, we return a bunch of cores to Mongolia. These are cheap reconquest cores, and take a bunch of rich land towards the middle of China for ourselves. Meanwhile, the truce with Ming is up. This is great news and very timely. Time to supercharge our country. They keep disintegrating very fast, and I want to intercept them before they lose their Mandate of Heaven. Then, this quagmire of new rebel states will stop being a challenge and will become an opportunity. With my new unified China CB, I'll be able to get a lot of land really fast. In this war, along with the Mandate, I want to get Beijing and Nanjing, the 2 imperial cities which Ming currently controls. Beijing, the current capital, is occupied by 60,000 rebels. These are just peasants, so they will disappear after enforcing their demands. All I have to do is avoid them for now. You see, they vanished. I am now free to siege Beijing. What I want from them is the 2 imperial cities they control, the Mandate of Heaven itself, and some money. With this, we have sealed our victory in this game. The Mandate gives us 500 governing capacity, which is the biggest bottleneck in the early game, a lot of bonuses including 20% coring cost reduction, and a fantastic casus belli that permits taking all the very rich lands in the China region for free without coring them. In the scripted events that follow, which concern the Mandate, I obviously recommend taking the options which increase the Mandate. We still don't control Guangzhou, which is the 3rd imperial city, and I'm afraid early on, my Mandate growth will be negative. All we do now is declare against the Chinese miners with the unified China CB. After many decades of slow growth, there is absolutely no reason to hold back now. Oh yes indeed, even more money. A fantastic mission here. Until the end of the game, there will be no stability loss on the death of our ruler, unrest reduction, and more loyal states. I feel the entire energy of the game has changed after we formed Japan. Ryukyu is very old as a tag. Paradox hasn't updated the country for many years, while Japan is fresh, exciting and powerful. The disaster brewing in my country is the Empire of China in name. To prevent it, all we need to do is accept 2 Chinese cultures. I'll be able to do it as soon as I core my new lands. Now done. All this fighting in the China area brings a lot of devastation to my provinces here. This devastation drops my Mandate growth. Now that the cultures are accepted, I can just unstate this land. This is a temporary measure. I will state it back when the fighting moves on. Another way to remove devastation fast is to develop the provinces. But A, I'm still low on my mana, and B, the fighting keeps bringing the devastation back. When you are the Celestial Emperor, you have to use all the good practices of this game. Remove devastation, bring prosperity, keep your stability high, employ high-level advisors, and try not to take loans. If you follow these easy steps, you will have an easy and pleasant game as the Emperor of China. Okay, time to start bringing people out of this war. All we want from Wu is a little bit of money and a short truce. And from Liang, we want the full annexation and money. Chu is an easy target here, no allies and a small army. It's painful to watch how the fragments of the once powerful Chinese empire keep falling apart. Of course, I attack them immediately. I feel like I'm a part of a large-scale feeding frenzy here in China. Note to self, make sure you occupy every single province before annexing these countries. Then you don't have to core them. Because I now control all 3 imperial cities and I have 0 devastation in my stated lands, my Mandate growth is healthy even without tributaries. And the feeding frenzy continues. I am attacking so many Chinese countries at once for 2 reasons. First, I don't want them to form a coalition against me. Second, I don't want them to get powerful allies like Ayutthaya or Korea. All the new lands I conquer in China, I drop wholesale into trade companies. This approach is starting to pay off. I just got a new merchant. Annex. Annex. A good ruler at last, 454. I've sat on this war with Qi for a long time, because I wanted them to peace out with Yang, but they never did, so I'm annexing what I can. 2 more merchants from my trade company tactic. We are now starting to snowball. And as we improve our economy, we get a new mission unlocked, the Edo period. It's an event giving us cheaper development and more prosperity for quite a few decades. After fighting off a new wave of rebels all over my country, I'm going for a small war up here in the north. Almost immediate annexation, of course. I don't like giving privileges to my new eunuch estate, because each of these privileges increases my corruption, so every time I grab crown land I get a lot of eunuch rebellions. They always happen in my stated lands back in Japan, so it's easy to put them down. Some of the remaining Chinese countries, like Wu and Shun, have grown quite large, so not all my wars against them are quick and easy, like this one requires a lot of running around. Shun had a light Korea, which is too strong for me right now. They have developed themselves all the way to the moon, and they have a larger army than I do, so breaking their Korea alliance seems fair. Japan has a special naval doctrine, Atake Bune, more navy morale and heavy ship fighting ability. I like it. On the death of my ruler, I get this Sinicization event. It gives me meritocracy and mandate, but unfortunately it doesn't Sinicize my culture. To peace out Wu, I had to chase their army all around the map, and they're too big for a full annexation. As we grow in China, we complete this mission, Wealth of China. Until the end of the game, it gives us trade efficiency and a discount to upgrade our centers of trade. It also gives 20 mandate. Normally, I would recommend taking it after you tank your mandate to 30, so you can shoot it back up to 50 in one go. But for this game, I'm not taking a lot of mandate decrease, so I'm going to take this mission now. All this fighting has given me a lot of attrition, so time to hire some more samurai. You can only hire the special units in your Japanese culture provinces. You can of course convert more provinces to Japanese. Alternatively, when you have enough samurai, you can shift your culture to Yurchen and start hiring very strong Bana units. An army made of samurai infantry and Bana cavalry will really be overpowered. Because we are now rich enough to start hiring high-level advisors, we've managed to reach 100 harmony and we can start harmonizing religions. Each harmonized religion will give us unique bonuses. We'll need to leave the Chinese area soon and start conquering outside of it. In preparation, I decided to ally a couple of countries. Ayutthaya and Langxiang look good enough for me. They have sizable armies and they're rival to my future enemy Daiviet. My truce with Shun is up, and I'm in a hurry to attack them before they can re-ally Korea. Wow, Wu keeps developing itself. I can only take one of their provinces. But at least I can take the entire Yan. Conquering 25 provinces in the northern China gives us another mission. This one gives us a bunch of temporary benefits, development in the provinces with manufacturers, and 25 mandate. I think I will save it until after I take the decree that gives me better coring cost reductions. Shun was mostly low development, so we were able to take a lot of land. We are getting there, it's 1577, and we have more than 1800 development. Before attacking Daiviet, I'm setting some provinces as my strategic interest. For the first time in this game, I think, I'm going to invite some allies into my war. And I want to get these northern provinces to myself, because Langxiang has overlapping strategic interest. I'm not inviting them to this war, at least not yet. I believe it's time to take our first mandate decree. I want to establish Li Fan Yuan for the -10 coring cost reduction. I'm simply using this random event to give me +5 mandate immediately. And also this mission which we have saved for another +25 mandate. And there we go, we don't have to operate below 50 mandate at all. I took Humanist as my 4th idea group. It adds a lot of benefits when you play a Confucian nation. Faster harmonization, less revolts and everything else of course. But when you own the mandate of heaven, on completing this idea group, you get a special CBE called the External Perfectionism. Fundamentally, it operates like the Deus Vult CBE from the religious ideas. We win this war without too much effort, and we take the entire north of Daiviet. Some of these lands we actually need to core, because they are outside of the China region. Apparently we have conquered some important trade, because we've just gotten this mission. I'm not going to lie, I've read this at least 3 or 4 times, I don't understand what this mission is. Among all the conditions they mention here, I kinda believe that because I'm now Confucian and didn't have the Nanban incident from the Shinto faith, I'm just getting some trade efficiency and cheaper diplomatic technologies for 30 years. As I'm really behind the Diplo, I welcome this. Harmonizing the pagan faiths gives a nice boost to our religious unity and some unrest reduction. This Chahar war is just a quick reconquest of the cores of our Mongolian vassal. One of our missions gave us a lot of permanent cores on the entire trade centers here in the Pacific. As you can see, Japan is designed as a conquest machine. To win here in the islands, we need a strong navy of course, but also we need to rely heavily on mercenaries. The attrition here is brutal. I'm also using mercenaries to fight the rebels back in the Chinese territories, and I managed to miss the landing of my enemies in my homeland. So I need even more mercenaries. Luckily, I'm so rich right now I can afford all of this. A mercenary-heavy Japan could be a valid strategy actually. The idea of fighting here in the Spice Islands is to have a series of quick wars to eliminate the small countries and truce-lock the larger countries. This area is remote enough for the aggressive expansion not to spread out to India and elsewhere for example, but you can still easily get into a coalition quagmire here. Because we now have more than 15 workshops, we get this mission offering us excellent development discounts for a while. I love it because I'm developing for the printing press. Very bizarrely, I'm getting this massive devastation penalty. I've searched far and wide and I cannot find which of my provinces is getting devastation. There is just a little bit of it here and there, but never dramatic enough to have minus 0.15 per month. Anyway, my next war is against Brunei, on whom I have full claims from my missions. And Malacca, because also I have a lot of claims on them. I'm now at war with most countries down here. That's just my way to prevent the coalitions. We can take most of Brunei in one war, great for our trade. And as for our world conquest goals and milestones, we have already surpassed them. It's now 1593 and we have 2,200 development. We are quite ahead of schedule. My mandate keeps dropping because of the mysterious devastation. It's kept afloat through the events like this one. While fighting, we keep developing for the printing press. It has spread to some of my provinces through events and that's where I'm developing. In case you are wondering why I haven't attacked Korea in this scenario, take a look at this. 6 top-level mountain forts. They also have an army of about 80,000 men, and their provinces are so highly developed that a peace deal will give me only 2 or 3 provinces. I prefer to max out my admin efficiency first and then conquer them fast in a couple of wars. I didn't co-belligerent dive yet, so I'm just truce-locking them. Same for Kedah. Goodness gracious me, I finally found the source of that horrible devastation. It's in my ancient capital, Okinawa. I think there was a peasant revolt over there, the rebel army has transported itself elsewhere, and I forgot to unsiege Okinawa. This has cost me a lot of mandate. What an idiot. This province is so tiny, I didn't even see it was rebel occupied. Annexing the entire Malacca gives quite a coalition. However, I have a truce with most of these countries, or I'm going to attack them very soon. Okay, I took a couple of loans and we can embrace the printing press right now. We are now the #1 great power in the world. Now that we resolved the devastation issue, our mandate is growing again. We came very close to falling under 50. Quick war in Indonesia, to continue dominate the trade here and to access Bali. Alright, it is January 1600, we have overachieved our target by almost 400 development, and we are looking good on the map. We are really well set up for the world conquest from here. Russia didn't form, so the only real endgame boss will be the Ottomans. And don't forget that in this scenario, because we formed Japan, we will need to move our capital to the New World and own every province in the world directly without the colonial nations or subjects. This is easy to do and has the additional benefit of making Spain and Portugal lose their colonial holdings, making them easy to conquer. With this, with your permission, I declare our samurai scenario a success. Let's now quickly go through the banner strategy and how it differs from this one. I will not bore you repeating the same steps, and will try to focus on the highlights. We've just taken a time machine back to 1467. We don't have the independent daimyo government reform, and in our peace deal against Ashikaga, we take a very different configuration of provinces. We took some lands on the border with Ainu, Korea, and we overall tried to weaken our biggest daimyos. In the fall of Kyoto event, we now get some mana and prestige, and we no longer have any way of becoming a shogun. So, in our alternative step 6, we just take some land and cash. Every daimyo in Japan is now independent. We can even set them up as our rivals. The obvious negative here is we don't suddenly own all of Japan like in the previous scenario. This means less money, less manpower, less trade power, and less development. And we still have our civil war because of our low legitimacy ruler. I forgot about him in all the excitement of playing Japan. In this scenario, we are also still Ming's tributary. They're protecting us, but they're asking for goodies in exchange for this protection. Okay, let's at least accept some mainland Japanese cultures. The bordering Ainu lands got automatically discovered, and we can now fabricate claims on them. But my first priority is to eliminate my Japanese rivals, on whom I have been fabricating for a while already. So my first war is against Ouchi, which had given me a lot of trouble in the previous scenario. They are just the right size for the full annexation. Of course, now we have to core all these lands ourselves. We do save a lot of Diplo mana though, because we are not Diplo annexing anyone. The progress towards civil war starts ticking if our legitimacy is low and if we have high overextension, which is exactly what we have now. I've already boosted my legitimacy over 75, and I'm just waiting for the month tick for this disaster to go away. Done, it's gone. We are not on the Great Power list, so painful to see. Next war is against Ainu, of course. We are making our way north to be able to fabricate on the Yurchens and to get in range for Alaska again. But what do I see? Uesugi got there first and managed to occupy half of Ainu. Pointless sitting on this peace deal, they will never peace out, so I'll take what I can. In this game, for my first idea group, I'm taking quantity. I'm very small and I will need to punch above my weight all the time. I can explore the Spice Islands on Alaska later. I have noticed something very interesting. Ming is at war with Korea, and I have a claim on Korea. This is possibly my best opportunity to take this country out. While the Korean army is deep in Ming's territory, I can land my troops unopposed. And then my game broke. Every time I move my cursor up, it crashes. I'm really not safe scamming right now. And I'm back. The game kept crashing for about an hour. I stopped recording and forgot to put my recording back. During this very difficult war with Korea, of which I was seriously proud, I basically stalked the Ming and Korean armies, waiting for the Korean army to unsiege what Ming has sieged, and then immediately sieging it back. I'm so upset right now. But I don't have the save file or patience, to be honest, to replay that war. So I lost about 4 years of game footage. This early in the game, Korea is not very well developed yet and is perfectly beatable, especially when it's engaged fighting Ming. Anyway, now that I own a part of northern Japan, I was able to fabricate claims on Orochoni, and we are now in the resulting war. Uesugi is once again fighting the same opponent. I am literally competing with them for the lands here in the north. The fort has just fallen to me. Can I block Uesugi from occupying the seaside? Nope, they were first. Okay, this time Uesugi peaced out for only one province. I can deal with that. We full annex the enemy, but because most provinces are deep in their territory, it will take ages to core these lands. I'll have to core them one by one. So it's more efficient to release them back and annex them later. Because my country is still a tributary of Ming, I can simply fight all the other Ming's tributaries without bringing our overlord into the conflict. Also, my near-term objective is to switch my culture to Yurchen, so my logical step is to wage war against these Yurchen tribes. Taking all of them at once is a little bit too much for me, so some of them I peace out for little gain. My near-term goal is to border Ming, of course, so these are the lands I take. And when I'm fighting the tribe of Shibe, Uesugi, in alliance with Ashikaga, attacks my vassal Orochoni. My vassal Orochoni got attacked by my rivals in both scenarios, so maybe, if you don't want to get attacked, don't create a vassal here. I personally don't mind this. Uesugi is also allied to Korea, who didn't join them in this attack on me, so I'll have easier time consolidating my hold on Japan. I hired a massive mercenary stack, 27,000 on the Japanese mainland, fully annexed Shibe and went to war. Ming, as my overlord, joined the fight on my side. Together, we won this war quite easily. I took some of Uesugi's richest provinces, including the one which will start producing gold soon, and some money. Took me 5 years to stabilize my country and get rid of the rebels, and then I saw that Jianzhou was without allies, so a new war. The second idea set I took was humanist, but my mana generation is so poor I can hardly progress with any actual ideas. I briefly considered dropping quantity ideas for something else, but in the end decided to keep them. Full annexation in this war, of course. Yurchen culture is already 45% of my stated lands, and after integrating Orochoni, the majority of my culture becomes Yurchen. As you can see it here, 52%. In our next step, we'll make Yurchen our primary culture, and from now we can hire the really powerful banner units, both the infantry and cavalry. These units use only half land maintenance cost, they have +5 discipline, and they use only -75% of manpower, which I assume is 25%. The only problem is very slow reinforcement rate, and upon creation, they increase your corruption. They can only be raised in the Yurchen or Manchu culture provinces, and the number of banner regiments we have depends on the development of these cultures, so culture conversion will be an important part of this campaign. If you want to remain Ryukyu with the overpowered banner regiments, this would be a valid strategy on its own, then simply don't complete the next step which I'm going to do right now. Don't form Manchu with its overpowered ideas. When you form Manchu this way, you will not become a horde, but you now have a set of very strong ideas, much better than the Ryukyu ones. And you can become Qing, which is truly overpowered. Your very first idea is national manpower and core cost reduction, followed by even more banners, a couple of filler ideas, institution spread and legitimacy, cavalry fighting ability, 10% cheaper technologies which we sorely need right now, and you still keep some aggressive expansion reduction. And our traditions are all military, cheaper land maintenance, land leader shock, and 15% morale of armies. Here are our lovely banner troops that will take us on the world conquest. I prefer them over the samurai troops. I've started my conquest with Oirats. This is a large country with long distances to travel, and I ran out of patience, but 50% peace deal is okay for me. I just want to get some provinces with the Mongol culture. If you want, you can form Qing while having the Mongol culture as your primary one. This will give you both the very powerful Qing mission tree and the very powerful Mongol mission tree. And the Ming starts to collapse before I can use it as my punching bag for some money. The game behaves strangely sometimes. Even though I chose We Ride to War option, the war didn't get declared. But no matter, I now have a lot of cores on them, so I just declared my own war. And in the peace deal, we get our first imperial city, Beijing. After this, I took just over 10 years to rebuild and stabilize my country. I caught up on technologies and now can take my third idea group, exploration this time. I also handled a whole bunch of rebels and full stated my lands. Some of the Manchu missions are fantastic for its playstyle. For example, this one refunds the corruption you get from the banner regiments. And that one, which I had ticked off already, gave me a whole lot of claims. After hiring 12,000 cavalry, we got this mission, some manpower recovery speed, and this one for the rise of the Nurhaci event, which gave me a powerful free leader with a conqueror trait reducing rebellions. 566, the best leader in both campaigns within this game. This mission triggers the 7 grievances event. Ah, I see. Siege ability until the death of our fantastic ruler. And for this mission, because we're at peace, we get some stability. Now I feel strong and stable enough to attack Uesugi with its allies. And in result, we can take most of his lands. And from here, the most productive direction for us is into China. The configuration is different, of course, versus our first scenario. This game is never the same. Shun, for example, has grown massive and rich. They don't have the mandate, so I prioritize taking money from them and access to their neighbors. Korea, even though much reduced, is still a formidable opponent. They keep developing themselves like crazy, and every time I take their forts, they build new ones. They also align everyone they can reach. I'm stubbornly attacking them every time our truce expires. Just look how expensive their provinces are to core. I got kinda unlucky this time. Yue has the Mandate of Heaven and it takes me several wars to reach them. So unfortunately, I don't have the benefits of the Mandate CB while fighting in China this time. These are long, difficult wars against massive opponents who are all allied to each other. But finally, in 1575, I can claim the Mandate of Heaven. In my samurai strategy, I was able to become much stronger, much faster by becoming shogun and then forming Japan. Here, I had to remain Ryukyu much longer. I have no subjects and I'm having to core everything I conquer. So up until now, it has been a more difficult strategy. Things are about to change though. Yet for now, I've been so engrossed fighting in the north that some of my southern colonies revolted and deflected away from me. The good thing about being the China Emperor as Manchu and later Qing is these entities are created for each other. The ideas and missions work very well with the mandate, unlike the ones of Japan. So from here, I'm able to pick up my pace massively. It feels good being able to finally start taking large blocks of rich land. But some things I don't understand, like for example, why do I have to core all of these provinces? After you get the mandate, if your religion is not Confucian, you will get this event offering you to convert. The good thing about it is that your previous religion, Shinto in my case, will immediately become harmonized. In my next war against Shun, I'm taking land in this strange shape, because these are Mongolian territories. I'm doing this just in case I want to change my culture to Mongolian before forming Qing for their massive mission tree. Speaking of the mission tree, it has become huge after I took the mandate, and I'm ticking off missions one after another. For example, this one gives me some cheaper development. And we simply go on with our mandate conquests. At least now, things seem to work well and I don't have to core the Chinese provinces. And now I can start taking the few mandate reforms that will help me conquer faster, like Li Fan Yuan. For the purpose of this video, because it's already 1599, I've decided to form Qing. Normally, like I mentioned a couple of times, I would convert to Mongolian culture first, and then back to Manchu. We're now one of the most powerful countries in this game, with a strong power base and stable mandate, as well as some of the best ideas. Even more banners means a cheap, disciplined army, national manpower and manpower recovery speed. -2 unrest, -5 years of separatism, meritocracy growth, and most importantly this one, 5 admin efficiency. This will turbocharge our expansion. The remaining 2 ideas are good for state maintenance and troops morale, and our national traditions include 25% coring cost reduction. This is in addition to the 20% reduction coming from the mandate. We also get cheaper advisors and a lesser aggressive expansion impact. Literally there is not a single idea or tradition wasted. We also now have a massive and exciting mission tree to go through and enjoy. What an upgrade from Ryukyu. Like here I can take 20 mandate, immediately cancelling the negatives from taking the mandate reform. To complete the 3 mountains we'll need to move our capital to the New World again. For this I've colonized the Northern Australia. Then we simply eat up the colonial nations and invade the Europeans. The only real remaining challenge are the Ottomans. In this game they have reached India, they're massive, so it'll be interesting to confront them. As for the immediate next steps, I would conquer the rich lands in the south and in India, and after becoming a rich powerhouse with strong troops and high admin efficiency, the rest of the world will hardly present any challenge. Development-wise, we didn't do as well as in the samurai scenario. We still over-delivered on our target of 2000, but just about. The Ottomans, for example, have more development than us. Would I declare this second scenario a success? Yes, I would. That's actually how I got my 3 mountains achievement myself. But what do you guys think? Did you enjoy today's presentation? What do you think about these scenarios? Would you do it differently? Please talk to me in the comments. I read and respond to every single comment, as you may have noticed already. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, it means a lot to me. Even more so if you could share this video. Thank you very much and see you again very soon.